Good morning, everyone. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ. How are you today, Bob?
I'm just fine, Greg. Thanks for asking. And I think we have an exciting week to talk about. And as we were talking about on the way over, plenty of rants, and we will get into those rants. I like your rants, but you don't rant enough on the air, in my opinion. So I want you to really start to get up on the table. I try to be a nice guy. No, see, that doesn't make it with the rants, Greg, so no more nice guy.
All right.
I want some fist pounding and screaming, and I want you calling out names, and let's get to the bottom of some of these rants. And also, right up front, let's talk about the call-in line, because we love to have call-ins, especially on our rants, because we never think we're wrong.
Right.
Sometimes we find out we are. And I don't like that either, but that's...
I haven't found that out yet.
You haven't been listening. Okay, if the call-in line here at 352-315-1410, 352-315-1410. And, well, let's talk about what I think is the elephant in the room. And actually, I like this. This is a breakthrough... the three Garcias. I'm sure you saw that in the paper.
I did.
I think that's phenomenal. You got an outfield. The White Sox started an outfield last night, first time in history, with three Garcias that aren't even related.
Right.
They are just, I guess that's no different than having the Smiths out there, or the Joneses. So maybe it's not that strange. I just like the fact that it's got a little, Mexican or
little Latin
American flavor. The Garcias. So next time when somebody asks you, who were those Garcias? One was Avasale, the other one was Lurie, and the other one was Willie. I'd have trouble with the first names, but I can certainly remember Garcia.
Right.
So, but I thought that was great. So good for Rich Renteria to, now when he yells out there, Art Garcia, he's got everybody's attention.
So what we're saying now is in baseball, there's nothing left. No stats, no achievements other than having like the outfield with the same
name. Well, that's where we've gotten. Right. Like I said, we talked about before the whips and the wars,
right.
and this is the I don't know what you call it, the name
right.
similarities, or pretty soon it'll be the first outfield with three Hondurans or something. Right. It's coming too, but I figured it was time to bring out the heavy stuff early.
So now in the record books, like when they eventually field a team with three Allens in the outfield, will that be better than the Garcias? Because
alphabetically,
right.
I think that you have to go with that.
Right.
The three Aardvark brothers,
right.
I think that's for sure. The Aarons, although you got to think about it, you got a double A in there. So,
right.
But no, really, the Aardvarks or the Aarons, I think. But for right now, you got to give all the credit to.
And I believe the Aardvark brothers are in single A right now. So
yeah, they're not hitting the ball as well as you'd like.
Right.
I think they're playing with Tebow. That's the outfield of Aardvark, Tebow, and Aardvark. They got to get Tebow out of there and get another Aardvark.
That's right.
But I'll tell you what. Since this is my time of year, and my type of my sport is baseball.
Right.
I love it.
Just about 10 games in. Some
10 games in,
and
1/16 of the season. I don't know if everybody knows that, but do the math. That's the only math I can do.
Right.
So we've played 10 games, and hard to find any exciting things or any strange things after 10 games. So the Twins will, I'm sure, go belly up and not win 60 games. I don't think they will anyhow,
right.
Even though they've started out pretty well. It's the same old Twins, the same old lineup. And I think that they're going to have some problems. But let's talk. I'll tell you what, before we get to the American League, let's talk National League.
All right.
And I know you have a soft spot in your heart for the Mets and the Yankees. But
yeah, I'm a New York guy. So
you're a New York guy, and you're stuck with a bunch of streak hitters there with the Mets.
Yeah.
Good pitchers, great pitchers.
Right.
But you're going to have to live and die with the Cespedes, Walker, and Jay Bruce guys that carry the team for a week.
I know you're not a big fan of Granderson, but he's another guy who's incredibly streaky.
Everything I see, he streaks into the low 200s or the high 190s. But I know I'm just giving you a hard time.
He'll hit 35 home runs, and they'll all come in like 1 month. And
Well, you know what? There's something to be said for that because there are some teams out there that can't hit 35 home runs as a team in the whole year.
Well, what's funny is actually the Mets are leading the National League, I think, in home runs.
It doesn't surprise me. But Cespedes, I remember he had his first three at bats, I think, that one game he had three, and I thought he was going to get maybe four.
Yeah, he leads the National League with 6.
Wow. That's impressive. But I'm speaking of the Mets, and we'll stay with the Mets for a little bit. Their pitchers, it looks like Matt Harvey's back.
Yeah.
And that's a real solid pitching staff with Harvey. And then Wheeler looks like he's ready to come out and pitch. I'm looking for a better starting four than that, and I'm not seeing any.
Right.
I guess the Cubs put a pretty good starting group out there, but I'm not seeing them nearly as good as DeGrom, Syndergaard, and Harvey. And I know Matz is still hurt, but Wheeler's pitching now, and when Matz comes back, that's 5 really good starting pitchers, and 5, not 3, 5.
Yeah.
Really good. So keep your eye on the Mets, but you're right. You're going to have to live and die with the streakiness of the hitters. Jay Bruce will hit 5 home runs and then strike out 20 times, and hit 5 home runs and strike out 20 times, which isn't bad, by the way, if you figure it out.
Right.
But also, I think that in the National League.
Well, I was looking at the Nationals batting average, and they've got some sick batting averages.
It's 10 games, but you're right.
Sure.
You got to give them credit. I still, as I look at them as a collective group, Jason Worth, is that his name?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is he that good a hitter? He'll hit 260 and hit 25 home runs.
You know what's weird about him? It seems is
what
he's a kind of guy who gets, I'll call it the unclutch hits. Like there'll be 2 outs in the 7th inning, and he'll get a base hit or a double or something, and then be just left on base. His hits never seem to come like at a great time. So he's like really, it's like the unclutch.
I guess that's what I'm saying about. I have nothing against him.
No, he puts up some pretty good numbers, but it just seems like it just not at the right time.
I'm looking at their lineup as you were talking about them. Zimmerman is a solid player. Harper's obviously good, but Harper's very streaky also.
Right.
But
he's batting, 330?
He's batting 333, which is, after 10 games, is certainly nothing to sneeze at. But Murphy, of course, hitting 444. I mean, they've got some guys that can stick it. But
and it's funny because Murphy, he's won a couple of games for them already. The Mets really messed up by letting him go. They did not like him at all.
Well, that surprised me.
Yeah,
he led the league in inning for them, didn't he?
Yeah.
Not? Yeah. So, but let's take a look and see who the Mets. Usually they have Neil Walker playing second, but I don't think he was in the lineup last night. But it was second baseman named Flores, batting 167. So yeah, you're right. The averages mean nothing right now.
No, they don't. But the Nationals getting off to a really good start. Although their pitching staff seems to be giving up a lot of runs.
Well, outside of Strasburg and Scherzer, obviously, but Rourke, I mean, he's not bad, but he has his moments, and I forget who their other guy is. But I'm sure that they'll be in there. I can't believe they'll beat the Mets. I just think the Mets. If the Mets had decent pitchers, I'd say it's close.
Yeah.
The Mets have 3 dominant pitchers.
Yeah.
Dominant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unheard of.
Right.
And for Syndergaard, DeGrom, and Harvey, and like I said, Matt and Wheeler ain't chopped liver when they come in and pitch.
Right.
That's very, very impressive. I mean, I'm looking at these other teams trying to get by with. San Diego's trying to get by with Chacin pitching for them.
Right.
And I can't even pronounce his first name. But there's so many teams that are just desperately in need of pitching. I want to talk about the Cubs, the Dodgers, and the Pirates in the Central Division.
Well, since we're talking about the East.
Oh, okay. We'll stay on the East. That's fine.
This leads into a rant, though. So
I love the rant. So I'm going to defer.
Yeah, I was watching the Mets. It was the Mets and the Miami Marlins last night.
Good.
And there was a play at the plate. There was 1 out. It was a line drive to Conforto in left field.
Okay.
And
shoestring catch type of thing?
No, it was a line drive right to him.
Okay.
And the guy at third base tagged up.
Tags up, okay.
And Conforto throws a perfect throw to home plate on the fly, and they call the guy out. I forget who the runner was. So Don Mattingly,
drops his hanky or whatever
they do.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
Lifted up his skirt or whatever. And so they go to the replay for 5 minutes. And of course, they keep replaying the two angles that they had.
You got to get it right though, Greg. You got to go to every angle.
Well, this goes
by every
back to the
cameraman in the Zapruder film.
It goes right back. I mean, they're doing it like frame by frame. You know.
And while they're doing this, all the while the guys in the booth are talking about how we're speeding up baseball.
Right. Right. Oh no! It was worse. It was worse than that.
Yeah.
So the announcers, who they were the I was watching this on the Marlins channel, so of course they're going to be homers, and I don't have a problem with that. And so they come back after 5 minutes and call the guy out. So they're outraged that they called him out. Now
the original call was out.
Yeah. So
okay.
they upheld the call.
They upheld the call,
right? Because when you look at it again, it was so close, and the replays didn't give you any convincing.
And in my estimation, that happens half the time.
Right.
You can't tell.
Right. So it's like, to me, why bother? But they were talking about this for the rest of the game, and it was just like it was just annoying. So the big question by their broadcast team was, do you ever think that they'll get a camera angle above home plate? It's like, okay, so see, and this is the
we have to get a Zeppelin.
This is the Pandora's box of replay. Now you're going to have 150 cameras that they're going to be able to go to from every angle imaginable to so-called get these calls right. And I don't know. I just think taking the umpire out of the game is stupid, and I don't know who they're trying to appeal to.
Well, that's a very good question, and I'm really with you on all of these things because I have a problem. First of all, you replay till you're blue in the face, but there are tag plays where a guy swipes at a guy's uniform.
Right.
I don't care how many times you look at it. On you can't tell.
Yeah.
The ball beat the runner there, but did the guy in fact tag the guy?
Right.
And it's literally a fraction of an inch whether he did or not.
Yeah.
And there is no stinking way to tell.
Right.
You can say it looks like he hit it.
Sure.
Looks like isn't good enough.
Right.
It's got to be he definitely tagged
right.
him. You can't tell.
Right.
And even to me, ranting on your rant, but this is one of the things that bothers me. The calls that I say you go with the umpire on it because the calls that matter are the 3-2 pitches that are borderline. I mean, that starts off, that kicks an inning off, and you know what? There's no way you can't replay them.
Right.
You can't do it. So go with the guy's call. And accept the fact that if it's off by a half inch. But every angle in the world's not going to make it defined.
Right.
You can't do it.
Right.
So, I mean, that's...
And again, why is this necessary?
It's not.
All of this hand-wringing over, replays to me is I don't know what they're trying to distract us from. But it certainly is a distraction from the game.
Well, it's a panacea of we can get it right. No, you can't. The fact of the matter is there are calls that you can get right, but tag plays well, like I said, you said there was a bang bang play.
Right.
Can't happen.
Right.
5 people think he's safe. After you see the replay, 5 people watch it and say he's out. 5 will say he's safe.
And
right.
I'm a Met fan. I'm not even saying I was biased in that because
no,
I just thought the whole thing was just so ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it is. And there's 10 minutes of looking at
right.
Slides.
Right.
Okay. Well, I can hear the music playing. We got a ton more show to go. Right. So take us away, Mr. Bryan.
Thank you. You are listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County, and we are sponsored by Bill Bryan Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. They are located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their number is 352-787-2223, and we'll be right back. Well, we are back with our Red Zone Radio Sports here on a beautiful Saturday morning here in Leesburg, Florida. And our call-in number is 352-315-1410.
And we are up and ranting already on some of the baseball things. And I know your big one is replays, and it should be. And I think replays is a legitimate point to talk about. Your word is, to me, the most accurate. It's silly.
Yeah.
If you don't explain, all right, we're just trying to get the call right. I get that, but sometimes you can't.
Right.
And to stand there and look at it from 58 more angles and then say, okay, I think he's just touching the plate and you think he's not. Then what has been gained?
And I look at it also, you look at these calls and that the umpires make, and it actually amazes me when you do this, slowing it down to a frame by frame thing, that how many times they're right.
Well, that's right.
I mean, it's got to be in the high 90s.
I was going to say it's in the 90s easily.
Yeah,
easily.
And so what's the point?
Yeah, the point isn't there.
You're going to try to make 100%.
You're proving that for the most part, the umpires are correct.
Yeah.
So, but it's just always troublesome to me. I think here's my only suggestion, and you tell me what you think about this. You got a minute. Okay, we're gonna challenge it. You got a minute to change it. I'll give you a minute. Look at all the things you can look at, and if you can't decide after looking for a minute at all replays and stuff that call needs to be changed, it's not changed.
Right.
Put down the book. Get on to the next pitch.
Right.
That'll accept. But I don't want. And let's bring in 5 other guys and let them look at it and see if they can determine. They can bleed through the screen and see if the guy touched the guy's uniform or if his finger got to the plate right before and if he had control of the ball just as the guy was stepping on it. It's impossible. It's silly. It's a waste of time. So don't hide behind. We're trying to be accurate and you're also trying to speed up the game.
Well,
speed up the game. Trust the guys. They're right over 90% of the time. Let's play ball.
Right. I'm totally against the replays, and maybe the only exception that I would give is like a home run that was marginal, and you get to look at it or something.
And you've got 6 of if the umpires on the field can't figure it, then no, we're not going to go look at more pictures.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so the worst comes to case scenario, you make a bad call, but you've got other umpires on the field. If you're not clear, check with one of your buddies and see.
And that's the big thing, and that I think is the solution to the problem is, the umpires need to come together, in a group and say, hey, look, did you see the play? No. Okay, then we're going to go. But sometimes another umpire has a better angle.
Absolutely.
And they can't be like taking it personally if an umpire in the group says, "Hey, I saw, and it was pretty clear to me that he was safe," and you do it that way.
Yeah.
But they've never really have done that. They've gone to the silly replay stuff that.
I'll give them a minute. And I mean, start. I know you. I know.
No minute.
No, you're. Well, I'm different than you. Because you have to appease the people that scream, but it's not fair, it's not right.
Well, I see.
Take a minute.
If
you can't change it in a minute, get off it.
I'm not a Chamberlain. I do not appease. I'm not an appeaser.
All right. Wait to name drop somebody that nobody knows who you're talking about. You're talking about Neville Chamberlain? Is that who you meant? I know he was. Yeah, but I just wonder, in a sports show, we didn't think we'd be talking about Neville Chamberlain.
Right.
That's okay.
Well, he's the quintessential appeaser. So,
But again, before we get back in, just going on to the rant again, and we were talking about this in the car, and I'm always amazed. The whips, the wars, the bondings and whatever the other things change. Yeah, we whips and chains. But the fact of the matter is, I was lamenting the fact that there's this. It seems to be a pervasive among all the managers now. You pull your pitch. Your pitcher pitches 6 shutout innings, gives up 2 hits, strikes out 8, walks 1. And starts off the next inning and strikes out a guy, and the next guy gets a bloop single. Right. Well, he's got to come out. What? Here's the starting pitcher for Detroit last night. 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs. They yank him with a 7-0 lead, and they won 7-6, and they're lucky they won. I mean, the fact of the matter is, why in God's name would you take the guy out? Let him pitch. Right. He's pitching. They're not getting the ball out of the infield on him. How in the world can you take him out? And what's the idea? To see if you can find a pitcher that doesn't have his stuff so we can make the game interesting? Right. It just doesn't make any sense to me. We were talking about this before. You got the guy that's the setup man for the setup man, and then you got the closer. And so you take the starter out, and now you're bringing 3 pitchers into your mix. And if one of them doesn't have their stuff, you have a risk of really blowing the game. Yeah. And I think that's so dumb. Why not? You find a guy that's not getting touched, not getting hit, and he'll tell you, "I'm not tired. I just struck out 4 guys before the guy got a hit. I didn't lose my ability to pitch. The guy got a lucky single. But I just don't get where this all started. What's wrong with a guy pitching a complete game? What's wrong with it? There's nothing. Nobody does it. I'm looking. Here's all the playing. I'm looking through the paper. Not one guy pitched a complete game yesterday. Right. Why not? Why in the world can't Syndergaard 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts, no walk? Why?
I will say this: in Syndergaard's case, they actually took him out because he's got that blister problem.
Oh, okay, okay, all right.
But I understand what you're saying for sure. In his case, he's got a problem with a blister in his fingernail.
Okay, so, I'll buy that. But the pitch count thing too. You're gonna have to sell me on that. I don't understand. Who says the 57th pitch you throw isn't the worst? Right. Who says it's the 83rd? Right. You do. What pitch is doing the damage to your elbow? I don't know. Is it the curveball you threw in the 3rd inning? I don't know. Right. Nobody knows. Right. That's my point. So why? I just don't get it. But that's my rant. Anybody that thinks that this Tony La Russa march of the Toreadors, where all of this, in the 7th inning, here comes Jose. In the 8th inning, here comes Fred. In the 9th inning, here comes your closer. If they're all great pitchers, that's a pretty good formula. I don't see any of these guys that anybody's bringing in being great pitchers. If they were great, I'm telling you, and your boys, they keep bringing in Tyler Clippard. They're going to pay. Yeah. They're going to pay. Oh, yeah. The guy is not that good a pitcher.
He's got a blown save or something.
Well, he'll do it. Yeah. I have nothing wrong with if there's a reason to bring a guy, but especially in the American League, why? Yeah. Why would you take out a pitcher? Well, it doesn't make any sense.
Here's something that I'd actually like to look up is Sparky Anderson. His nickname was Captain Hook.
Captain Hook. Yeah.
But I wonder at what point he was pulling those people out. Was it like they doing now, one batter that the bloop single scenario, or was it really that he just wasn't letting guys get three hits and then he pulled them out?
Yeah, I mean, if a guy gets 3 solid hits off you in the 8th, time to take him out, but not 1.
Right.
Come on. But that's what they do. Right. Now it's one guy gets on base, he's coming out of the game. Why?
Well, here was another issue that they were talking about. I forget what broadcast I was listening to, and they were actually making a good point. I think it was a Yankee game. Girardi kept putting up somebody in the bullpen, to warm up, and the guy never came into the game. And they were saying that he thinks he blew the guy for the next game because he got up like 3 times, but never brought him in for some reason. And they're saying, like, if you bring a guy up, to warm up to come in, maybe you just got to bring him in.
Why not? I mean, to me, you are wasting him. To me, if you bring him up 3 times, he's pitched an inning.
Right.
Yeah, I mean there's no getting around it. But it just frosts me that and it's not that I don't think the players are asking to be babied. Tampa Bay is up 8-1, and they take out their starting pitcher, and Boston gets 5 runs. I don't get why.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a reason. And you know what? The bad news is if they still win the game, like Detroit, they were up 7-0, they won 7-6. They'll say, "Hey, we won."
Yeah.
You know, my formula for my recipe for success is right on the money.
And here's the thing that it doesn't even make sense to me either. When a pitcher pitches either 6 innings or 8 innings, it really doesn't affect his next outing.
No.
But when you're burning up your bullpen night after night, I think that has a bigger effect detrimentally than letting a starter go an extra inning or two.
Plus, it's riverboat gambling.
Yeah.
You've got a guy you can watch. You're watching him pitch. He's pretty effective. He's moving the ball in and out. Now we're going to bring an entirely different guy in.
Right.
And that guy. Here's the top of the rant. Okay, I bring in Greg Malinzik to pitch the 7th inning. He strikes out 3 guys. Well, he's out.
Yeah.
Because I don't let him pitch more than 1 inning.
Right.
Why?
Right.
And, I mean, there is no answer to that question.
Yeah.
And nobody's got one. But it's something.
Well, I think the answer to the question is it's too much sabermetrics and stuff.
Well, I think you're right. I think that's exactly. We're talking about all of the stats now: blown saves, saves, hold. Well, you were asking about if you come in to hold a game for me, and it's in your contract that if you get 25 holds, you'll make another $50,000. So you come in with an 8-2 lead, and you leave with an 8-6 lead, even though you've given up 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning. And you get a hold if you're still pitching at the end of the game.
Yeah. Okay, we can move on and talk about.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that.
No.
It absolutely frosts me because I just want answers to the questions why, and nobody has them. So enough of that. But let's go back to our talking about the National League in particular. Then we'll go to the American League. But National League right now, the Mets and the Nationals, I think, are the 2 teams and the only 2 teams that are going to compete for that division. We'll see if anybody steps on the gas a little bit, but I don't see it happening.
Right.
I really don't. So you got them. You got the Cubs, who are going to be by themselves.
Yeah.
But
they did lose to your Pittsburgh Pirates last night.
My Pittsburgh Pirates, and I'm sure they made it interesting. I didn't see the game, but I'm sure that the parade of relief pitchers made it interesting. So, because I see Jared Cole in the box score pitch 6 innings, 2 hits, 6 runs, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk, and get him out of there.
Yeah.
Get him out of there and bring. Listen to. They brought in the first reliever with a 5.40 ERA. He got to pitch the 7th inning. I guess, and it's just to me. Oh well. Okay, back to. No, I thought we were over that. No,
Okay.
truthfully, but let's talk about it. You got the Cubs by themselves, head and shoulders above the rest of the teams in that division. Cardinals really look like they've fallen as badly as I'm looking at the Cardinals. They don't have a scary lineup. They don't have a scary pitching staff.
Right.
They used to.
Yeah.
Now they got old. I guess they got hurt. Carpenter got hurt. Wainwright, I don't think, is the pitcher he was. He's had too many surgeries and had to sit out way too long.
Right.
And I just don't think they're the team they used to be. I'm sorry. Their lineup of Fowler, Diaz, Adams, Peralta, Grichuk, Wong. I'm sorry. Very mediocre. It's like the Pirates. Pirates aren't going to beat anybody with their lineup. Then it's I don't care how good the pitching staff is, and it's not. But let's talk about the West because we never get to see the teams.
Nope.
Arizona's 7-3. Everybody was big on Arizona. I said why, and obviously somebody knew what they were talking about, and I sure didn't. But I guess that they've got
our buddy Ken Rich. Remember, picked them to win the West.
And, well, they got Greinke pitching for him, and but I'll be darned if I can name another good pitcher they got. But they obviously got some guys in place. Goldschmidt, they got some guys that can hit, no question about it. But I just think the Dodgers look like they're head and shoulders above everybody else, and maybe I'm wrong. I think it's nice to wheel at Kershaw.
Sure.
I mean, that's impressive. And even though I'm not a Puig fan, He gets hot. He can carry you for a couple of games. But right now, I just think the Dodgers look like the team to beat in that division. Although, well, they're 5-5. It's way too early to tell. So I'm sorry. To analyze where they are right now is stupid because, like I said, the Cubs are 6-4, and the Cubs will win 108 games. I'm sure of it.
Right.
And I'm trying to think of other teams that have decent. I don't think the Giants are going to be 4-7. I think the Giants are a 500 ball club easily.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes. But beyond that, I'm not buying Colorado and San Diego. I'm just not buying them. So now let's go to the American League, and I really want to talk about the Baltimore, New York, Boston, Tampa Bay, Toronto. Toronto's 1-9, and who didn't see that coming? I mean, they're old. They're throwing $18 million at Batista to play one more year. He batted .210 last year. $18 million. This guy hit 30 homers and batted .210, and you think that's worth signing for another year at 18
Yeah, but
million?
I didn't think Toronto would be doing this badly.
No, they will turn around, but I don't think that they're they lost what Encarnacion. I'm looking at their. No offense, but they got Darwin Barney playing. I mean, I guess somebody got hurt, but Darwin Barney's not going to get it done. They're Steve Pearce. Steve Pearce didn't start for the Pirates. He's playing left field for Toronto. Batista batting .135. Morales Tulowitzki, 216. Well, maybe they will all get hot, but right now, it just screams somebody get a hit because they're one.
Tulowitzki's old.
Is he now?
Yeah,
I guess he's 30-some. Yeah, but Batista, how do you bat .210 and go in and say I'll play another year for $18 million? Right. I go, okay, what? I mean, that's incredible to me.
And it was pretty much nobody wanted him. I think he was on the trading block.
No, he was on the trading block and nobody wanted him. Kind of like with McCutchen with the Pirates.
Yeah.
Now, he may still have some fire left. We'll see where this year takes him. But he looked very ordinary, just like Batista. And I know they had been in the league a long time. But, boy, catch lightning in a bottle. He was never a high average batter to begin with. But now he's just swinging in the dirt, pitches in the dirt, which is too bad. But like I said, we got a whole lot to talk about with the American League, and we've got all sorts of other sports we want to talk about.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry we ranted our way through that one, but I promise no more rants.
Well, I thought it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It's always fun to rant. But thank you very much for that, and I'll let you take us to Mr. Bryan and the gang for some much-needed advertisements.
All right. Thank you, sir. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. And we are sponsored by Bill Bryan Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223. And you need to go up there and check them out. We will be right back after these messages. We are back with Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. And if you want your voice heard, you call 352-315-1410.
Yeah, we'll look forward to hearing from you. And we're just really recapping and talking about the teams and what kind of starts they've gotten off to.
Right. And
go ahead.
Before we leave the American League East.
Oh, we got a long way to go. Yeah.
And we touched on the Toronto Blue Jays.
Right.
1-9. I know you're not a big fan of sabermetrics, and I have a love-hate relationship with it. I think some of it's good, some of it's way overdone. But one of the things that Bill James is, he's probably the guy that's
he's the
credited.
Guy. Yeah, he's Mr. Sabermetric.
But one of the first books he had written was about more of a math kind of thing. It was the beginning of his sabermetrics thing. But
I probably have that book. Yeah, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head.
But what he was talking about, like these teams that start like 0-5 never win. And it's just, when you think about it mathematically, those 5 games, when the difference between a 90 game season and an 85, puts you out. They're 1-9.
Sure.
And mathematically, they're probably already eliminated.
Well, but like I said, in a 10-game series, if it happened, if they went into July 46-39, and they went 1-9, they'd be 47 and 48, and they might be 5 games back, but nobody would say, well, they're cooked, they're done.
Yeah, but and I don't think.
I know what you're saying.
He
Statistically,
he doesn't refute that. It's when it happens right at the beginning of the season.
It's deflating, no question.
And because you go, well, you can come back in June and win 10 games in a row, and there are teams that have won, but the bottom line is
they don't win, they don't get in.
You just can't make up those 10 games that you lose in April.
Well, that's right. It's a lot like a pro football team starting out 0-4. You're pretty much not going to.
Because when you think of 162 game season, you go, well, 10 games, you can make that up pretty easily. But apparently they don't. Yeah,
well, that's interesting. Talking about Bill James, and that's for a discussion later on today, as a matter of fact. Because I don't discount sabermetrics,
right?
But I think it's been the findings of sabermetrics have been extrapolated to where I don't even it doesn't even now it doesn't make any sense. It's just statistics for statistics' sake.
Yeah, talking about that. Okay, I'm going to digress here.
Yeah, love it. Let's do it.
As a man with a grievance will do. I was watching the ESPN broadcast of I think it was Sunday Night Baseball.
Okay.
I don't even know who was playing.
Okay.
And so the guy hits a drive into left field, almost down the line, and the left fielder comes in and he makes a great catch.
Okay.
So it's like, okay. So then the announcers go off and they replay this thing. And I can't remember the word, but I thought of you instantly when he said this. The line that he ran to get to that ball, was really good. Was really good.
He took an excellent route to the ball.
Yes. Right. That was the key word. It was route. He had a. It was just, it was so stupid I couldn't even remember.
Well, isn't that amazing? You would think the best way to get the ball is directly at the ball.
Right.
Most guys don't go over to the hot dog stand and come in and try and make the catch.
And they had the graphics on screen, and it was just like, oh my goodness gracious.
Don't you love it? So, but like I said, we were talking, and and I'll tell you, we'll go to the teams and we'll get back on sabermetric because I have a lot to talk about, including the famous wins above replacement that I always like. That's one of my all-time favorites, as you know. But back to the American League. So you got Baltimore at 7-2. I can't see Baltimore. If their home run guys are not swinging, they just don't have the pitching staff to cover them, and they're not a big average. There's not a big batting average guy.
Right.
So they got off to a hot start. You were talking about 9. What you don't want to start out 1-9, but I don't know if you want to start out. Is 7-2 guarantee anything? I don't think it does.
Yeah.
But they're starting off. But Boston, I think, is going to be there. Their pitchers that they were counting on have been a little shaky out of the box, but that can happen to anybody. They've only pitched their knuckleballer got absolutely shelled. Porcello got shelled.
Right.
But they got some sticks in that lineup, boy, and they can.
Sale hasn't won yet.
No, but he's pitched well.
Yeah.
He's pitched 2 very good games, and I think he's going to be the missing puzzle piece that team may need. But like I said, Tampa Bay, I think, is they're gritty. They'll show up and they'll show up and play every night, but I don't think they're a 500 baseball team. So we'll see what it gives. But the Detroit and Cleveland and that's a log jam right there with those teams. The team that I can't figure out as to how they plummeted so fast, so bad as Kansas City.
Yeah.
And they just don't look like they look like a Kansas City Royals to me now.
Right.
They don't have a bat in the lineup that I'm worried about. They don't have an arm on the mound that I'm worried about. So I don't know how you look at Kansas City, and how could they have been so great 3 years ago, and now they're just absolutely, Hosmer's still in the lineup, and they got Gordon, of course, Kane, but they just I don't know. I can't figure it out. So what do I know?
Yeah, their run differential, which I like, is a -8.
Yeah,
it
just doesn't make.
Scoring runs.
I don't get it. I don't see where the White Sox are. Who thinks they're going to be God's gift? But I really do think that Detroit and Cleveland will battle that division out.
Yeah.
Minnesota, Chicago, and Kansas City, I think, are woefully under talented, as I think the word I'm looking for.
Right.
And in Houston, I mean, in the West Division, Houston, of course, is a good-looking team. The Angels are scuffling along. At the end, I think it's going to be Houston and Texas. Seattle's 2-8, which is one game better than Toronto. But outside of Cano, what do they got going?
Yep.
I don't. I guess they're. They think they're ready to contribute, and they got Hernandez pitching, but he pitches every fifth game. And
I still love that analogy or whatever of Robinson Cano. He signed a $300 million contract. He left the Yankees, and they were saying it was a really shrewd signing for him because he got that big raise and he gets October's off.
I really like that. That's very funny, and that's very appropriate. But so, like I said, nothing eye popping in terms of records. Like I said, Toronto, I guess, is the big story in the American League, being 1-9. But I don't see where they're going to dig themselves out of this hole anytime soon. And in the National League, St. Louis is 3-7. Philadelphia is 3-7. Philadelphia, I'm still not sure, is ready to put a lineup on the field that can compete consistently. But St. Louis, I think they thought they had some pieces in place to compete, and it's still early to be sure. But they're just going to have to turn the corner. And beyond that, we'll see where it goes. We'll have 7 more games under a belt next week, and we'll see what's going on. But That being said, that's the National League. But let's talk a little bit about sabermetrics.
Well,
go ahead.
Actually, before we get to that, because we just got a few minutes left in this first hour.
Yes,
I did want to bring up that on this day in baseball, April 15th, 1947, Jackie Robinson.
What happened that day?
Jackie Robinson debuted.
Jackie Robinson
debuted with the New York Dodgers.
Brooklyn Dodgers. Brooklyn Dodgers. Did he have an impact on the game?
Well, he went 0 for 3 with a walk and scored a run.
Okay. How about the fact that he played? Did that have anything to do with anything?
Maybe a little bit.
So what I'm tongue-in-cheekly saying is that's the first. We were talking about this in the car on the way over too. You have to. My hats off to Jackie Robinson.
Right.
There were probably 150 to 200 Negro African American ball players before Jackie Robinson that were phenomenal.
Yeah.
But nobody had the nerve, the guts to bring them to the Major League Baseball. But Branch Rickey did.
Sure.
And so that being 70 years ago.
Yeah.
That's amazingly. When baseball started almost 70 years before then.
Yeah.
If you can imagine the hardships that any of the African American baseball players had to go through.
Right.
I mean, just to get the homestead grades, just to get on a baseball field. And get any money at all. And then he signed Jackie Robinson, and the rest is history. Then. Who was second? Who was the second African?
Larry Doby.
Larry Doby. Very good. Yeah, I thought I could trick you.
No.
Thought I'd throw you a curveball, but you were sitting there ready to hit that one out of the park. But Larry Doby.
What's interesting about Larry Doby is, you always hear this stuff about the how badly Jackie Robinson had it with people, saying nasty things and blah, blah. Larry Doby had that times 10. And a lot of people didn't come to his defense. He's playing out there. I think it was Cleveland.
He's
right?
playing with the Indians, yes.
And they just really, players didn't really rally around him like they.
But
did
he
in
wasn't
Brooklyn.
like Robinson was kind of an electric player.
Yeah.
Adobe was your go to work, lunch pail, blue collar type of player. He wasn't a standout, but he was good.
Well,
he was good enough to play pro baseball.
He got in the Hall of Fame. I think he's a 7-time All-Star, and I think All-Star.
But I mean, when he came up, he didn't get the hoopla or the hype.
But he was also a big star in the Negro Leagues.
Oh, there's no
obviously if you're choosing somebody to come onto your team from the Negro Leagues, he's going to be pretty good.
Well, and you're right. Dobie was very, very productive baseball player, and he played a long time.
Yeah, led the American League 2 times in home runs.
Yeah,
was on the '48 championship team.
Dobie led the Indians to the. He and Feller, they are that. Yep. You're right, but he was not.
He gets short shrift, is my point.
Well, he did get short shrift, but he was old hat, unfortunately for him. Right. But the last laugh was his because he had a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
But when he came in, it was like, oh well,
right.
No, but it was nice. The fact that he came in Cleveland, that's not where you're going to get the big press machine going for you, as opposed to New York or Brooklyn.
Right.
So, but I thought that's a milestone. In fact, I could go on a rant about the Negro Leagues and why it took so long. But the fact of the matter is, it did, and to go boo-hoo, it doesn't do it any good.
Well, it's funny, or not funny, but in the Negro Leagues, what I found very interesting is they had a lot of players who actually made a lot of money.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. In fact, the one that pops to mind is Satchel Paige.
I remember Leroy Satchel Paige.
And he was making, I think he would have been like the third highest
paid
player in Major League Baseball.
Well, he was a showman in a gold mine, and he could pitch every day. He was one of those guys. We'll pitch Satchel today, and then tomorrow we'll pitch Satchel again. Yeah. I mean, and he pitched. He was in his 50s, right, when he pitched in a major league game.
I think so.
Yeah, which is incredible.
Right.
But I think it was more for selling tickets. But the fact of the matter is, Satchel Paige. You're right. I'll bet he was a marketable commodity.
And there were a bunch of other ones as well.
Josh Gibson probably did pretty well for himself.
Unfortunately, a lot of those guys also got screwed. I mean, they were because those teams actually the Negro League really wasn't the Negro League. It was a bunch of different leagues.
Yes.
And they would come and go. They would go bankrupt, and then they would, form other teams, and they come back. It's actually a pretty interesting story if you ever get a chance to read about
I think
it.
the story of the Negro Leagues and baseball is phenomenal. And there's some good movies made about that too. But that being said, we got a whole another hour to go, and I got all sorts of. I want to talk about the biggest problem facing professional tennis.
Okay. And I also want to talk about the NHL playoffs started.
Yes, and NBA.
And then the Eli Manning scandal.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah. We will talk about that as well. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. We are sponsored by Bill Bryan Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. They are located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. And we will be right back after these messages. We are back with Hour 2 of Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410 in Leesburg. Our call-in line is 352-315-1410. And
well, I'm ready to. I'm going to rip the cover off this cover-up. Then the biggest problem that is facing the LPGA.
Yeah.
and this is unbelievable. The biggest problem I see facing the LPGA. Let me see if I can break it down for you. I'm going to give you the last names.
Uh-oh.
Thonapol Bunyaras, and that's P is the first initial. So you know that's whatever it is, but it's Thonapol Bunyaras is one last name.
All right.
The other one is Santiwi Warthananafong. That's a last name.
Okay.
And a Sunawanapura. I like that. The fact I guess I'm getting to is there's no way you can pronounce these names properly, and you can't pronounce the first names properly. And what I really like is I'm looking at the failed to make the cut. And, of course, that Santiwi Wathanafong didn't make the cut. And right under her is Suo, S-U-O-H. That's two names. So you can say Suo, and 5 Suos fit within one Santiwi Wathanafong. But one of my favorite also is Brooke Pancake. She didn't make the cut either.
Wow,
that's an American for you.
Right.
Pancake. You can't. That's got to be good.
Right.
She's got to be. She's got to be ready to
I
go.
believe her middle name is Blueberry, isn't it?
Ba-dum-bum. But the Thonapol Bunyaras is right up there, and one of my favorite. And I'm not making fun, but the fact of the matter is, your first name of Nontaya, Nontaya Srisawang. And I hope she plays well, because I just want to hear people go over the leaderboard. I mean, going over the leaderboard would be great. And my girl, Araya Jatanagarn, is 1 stroke out. 1 stroke out. But Pornanong, Fatlum Pornanong, did not make the cut. No can do. Sorry about that. That's a shame. It's a travesty. But I'm telling you, I want to hear the announcers whip through some of these names, because it's amazing to me. Thonapol Bunyaras. I guess it just trips right off the tongue. Now I can say that. But Santiwi Wathanafong is going to be a tough one. I hope Suo does well. Come on, Sue. Get with the ball game. And while I'm wrapping on women's names, we go right over to the tennis and realize it's time to do the over-under, which we like to do.
All right.
We've got the quarterfinals in Switzerland, Bill, Switzerland, and Marketa Vondrousova beat Kristina Pliskova. So there's that's a wash. That's one over under. But also we had Barbara Strakova win, the number 1 seed. So that's 2 overs win and 1 over loses. So the over under there is 1. And the great news in the other tournament, and this is in Bogota, Colombia, where there are no overs, but in the finals is Francesca Schiavone. Now, she might be 500 years old. I don't know how God love her. She can't weigh 80 pounds. She's been playing. She made the finals, I think, of Wimbledon or the Italian Open one year, and this is like 15 years ago. And she's still slugging, and God bless her. Hope she wins, because I want to find out more about her. And in the semifinals of the men's in Houston, Jack Sock. Always a great name for a guy, number 1 seed. Jack Sock is the only. There's 2 Americans left. He and Steve Johnson. They got to play each other. But Jack Sock, the name says it all.
Right.
So nobody hits the ball like Jack Sock. But I just wanted to cover all those things. I think that's really nice. We have a lot of other things going on. We got the NHL.
Right.
We got the NBA. And as you know, I'm not a big follower of the NBA.
Yeah, me either.
But I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about the Knicks. We were laughing about they rehired Phil Jackson.
Right.
And Phil Jackson's, if I want to be able to have a job where I have 5 years performance like Phil Jackson had, and then get re-upped for another 5 years, because I
think it was 2.
Oh, I thought he had 5 years. It's only 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He was in the middle of a 5-year contract, and they extended it, right? Okay.
Yeah, I guess there was an option.
Okay,
well, option
their option was to keep him.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, they haven't done so well
No.
in the last couple of years. New York does not expect the Knicks not to be in the playoffs.
He is just so crazily addicted to this. His triangle.
Yeah, right.
And and everybody that I read says pretty ridiculous. Concept nowadays. Just I guess back when he was coaching, it was effective, but the game has changed, and he has not.
No, I don't think he has. I just I know they hired him, and I guess this is their way of making a statement saying the performance isn't his fault.
Right.
So we're going to extend him.
Carmelo Anthony's fault.
According to Phil,
yeah,
Carmelo's got a lot to do with it.
And what's funny is he was the guy who championed him. He gave him this ridiculous contract.
I remember that.
With a no-trade clause in there, which apparently is pretty rare in NBA contracts. It's very prevalent, like in baseball, but it's not in other sports, and especially the NBA. And he gave him this no-trade clause. So,
go figure. But the point is, you're going to have Phil Jackson to kick around in front of their 5 years, I guess. The Knicks are, even when Porzingis is healthy, they're not going to get it done. They're a couple players away.
Speaking of Porzingis, he opted not to show up to the Knicks exit meeting that it was like a team meeting.
Why?
He said he really can't stand the all this drama, being played out in the tabloids and stuff. I don't blame him.
Well, what's great about it is, what's he, 20 now? Yeah. I mean, that's a really good reason. But I'm old school, so I think, hey, if you signed with the team, you show up and do what you got to do. I don't think you have the option to back out of it. Nobody asked you if you liked it. You just got to do it.
Right. Well,
that's me.
I don't know. I don't know if this was mandatory or.
Oh, okay.
Or not,
I thought it was.
No, I don't know if it may have. To me, it sounds like it would be something that would be mandatory.
Yeah,
but,
I agree with you.
But maybe this is his way of saying, hey, look, I want out. So you can send me. I have a no trade clause. Send me somewhere else.
He's 20 years old.
Yeah. But I mean,
a 20-year-old demanding to be traded. There's something
I
wrong
don't
with
think
that.
he hasn't demanded to be traded, but I don't think I'd want to be in that circus.
Oh, of course not.
I mean, and you look at, like, you're 20 years old, and you're going to spend your key years in a dysfunctional system. I actually don't blame him if that's his motivation.
But they're probably one good draft choice away from rallying the troops. Maybe not, but maybe. And Porzingis is, I think, a real talent.
Yeah.
He's going to be good. I don't know that Anthony fits in. If they can get two good players for Anthony, get rid of him.
Right.
Yeah, and then now you're back. You're at least a playoff team.
Yeah.
And that's what New York wants. They want to see the team play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, the problem that the NBA is going to have for the next year or two or three is you've got a real imbalance in the league. You've got three teams that are decidedly better than all the other ones.
Yeah.
And it makes for not as exciting a regular season as you'd want it to be.
Right.
You got San Antonio has built another empire. Unfortunately for them, they've got the Golden State, and I don't see. Like I said, I think the Celtics are wannabes. I don't think they can beat Cleveland.
Right.
But that's probably going to be your last the four teams that are going to be down to the semis. So we'll see what gives. But I see Golden State and Cleveland doing the same thing, and I probably see them doing it next year too, and the year after that, until somebody decidedly. I thought San Diego. I thought that the Clippers might have something to say about when they had Griffin and Paul,
right?
And they just haven't turned it around. They just haven't done it.
Yeah.
So that being said, the Pacers are the team to watch. I guess they've won like 8 in a row going into the playoffs, and they're playing Cleveland.
Yeah.
And if anybody can beat Cleveland right now, I think in the East it's Indiana.
Really?
Yeah. So we'll see what gives, but I suspect
those
the Cleveland turns it on.
Those eighth seeds don't have a lot of luck usually.
No, but usually you don't win like 8 in a row to be the eighth seed. I mean, they at least seem to have some momentum. Now they may get they may get smoked.
Were they playing teams that were tanking to try to get?
Well, and that's another thing that we're going to be talking about. In fact, thanks for uncovering the mystery. But I was going to say this whole tanking thing, and let's shoot over to it right now because it's way too early to talk about what's going to go on in the NBA. But this has become a monumental problem in my estimation, and it's not so much that you're screwing the people that paid ticket prices to go see a game, or that you're not upholding your end of a televised package, but that the quality of the product is so bad, and you're trying to lose. I don't think that bodes well for anybody. They did. You're right. Indiana did play about 4 teams that were tanking. Right. They sat their first 7 or 8 guys. So you got 5 guys that never played an NBA game, and a lot of
because if you look at this, going back to statistics, and this is something that I've read, is those 8th, 7th, and 6th seeded teams never win.
No,
they just never win.
Never win. I'd like to say I don't know what the stats are on the last time it happened.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I
There's
can't.
one.
I think one
there.
did.
Yeah. That
went. Somebody.
It went far, but didn't win the championship.
Yeah, but no, you're right. But the idea is there's just money. You make your money back. A lot of teams in the playoffs. Right. And so a lot of them look forward to it. And now, does the NBA? I was surprised, by the way. I don't mean to shoot getting hockey into this right now, but just only the format. Hockey never used to play 7-game series this early.
Right.
They're doing that now.
Yeah.
So I imagine they'll go into mid-June.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. But that's what they got to do. What happened to best of 5? No good.
It's 2 games less than making more money. Because I think most of this money in the playoffs go to the owners.
Oh yeah, well, there's no question about that.
Yep.
But so
I think basketball I think is more glaring than the NHL, but too many teams make the playoffs in both those leagues.
You're right, but that's a money grab,
right? And
I understand that. Now explain to me, and I bet you know this. I don't. How does the lottery or the lottery system work when you're tanking? The worst 5 teams then all get balls thrown into a hat.
Yep.
And so if you're one of the 5 worst teams,
right?
If you're the worst team, don't you get 2 balls thrown into the hat with your name on it, as opposed to the others?
I think so.
Just getting 1.
Yeah, I think so. And they implemented that whole program to try to stop this tanking.
I know. Yeah.
Which is not working.
No, it's not working at all. Some of the games at the end of the year were putrid.
Right.
And I was just amazed because I would think the advantage to tanking is to guarantee that you get a
lottery pick.
A lottery pick.
That's why more teams are doing it now.
Yeah. But there's only 5, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Again, I don't follow basketball that closely. But
no, I don't either. But I wasn't clear exactly how that worked. And like I said, to me, there's no guarantees. So
Well, and you see like a team like the Nets traded away a lot of their picks, and they're a bad team, and so you have the Celtics who apparently have lottery picks.
They've got picks all over the place
because they had some trade with the Nets a few years ago.
I mean, if you did it right, they have a chance to make the NBA Finals and still get like one of the top picks in the draft, which is, I guess, a feather in their cap. Yeah. There's got to be a way to figure it out. But the NBA, to me, it doesn't. I'm not throwing darts at it. I'm a sports fan, but the entertainment value is not there for me.
Yeah.
And it's not because I grew up in Pittsburgh where we didn't have a pro team.
Right.
We did have the ABA and stuff. It's just that it is now come down to, I grew up playing ball, and I played ball even in my college years. But you tell me the last time you've seen anybody called for palming a basketball.
Right.
And I see it happen maybe 75 times in a pro game.
Yeah.
And you were never allowed to cup your hand on the ball.
Right.
And now every player in the league
Yeah.
does it. And nobody, if you called it, you would get dirty fan mail. So, to me, it's just the steps aren't called, the palming isn't called, and it just gets to be silly. But that's, but again, a great, the final series, if it's Golden State and Cleveland, will be fun to watch because there's so much talent.
Right.
So we'll see where it gets me. But right now, I'm not thrilled. We'll be back talking about the National Hockey League.
All
We
right.
got some other rants to go through.
All right.
2 more sessions to go.
Don't forget about Eli Manning.
Oh, I won't. In fact, we'll lead with Eli.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. We're sponsored by Bill Bryant, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Gemcar. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Give them a call at 352-787-2223. We'll be back. We are back with the Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. I'm Greg Malinzuk, and your special host is Bob Wiltman.
Thank you for being the special host, and I'm glad to be the special host. But I'm now intrigued. Here I am, ready to just go hell bent on all of my National Hockey League trivial notes.
All right.
But you've intrigued me with Eli Manning,
Yeah.
who's always been that loudmouthed rah guy,
Right.
Always an attention headline grabber.
Well, he's embroiled in a big scandal up there in New York.
Fill me in.
He's being sued by some gentlemen who allege that he, along with the New York Giants and team equipment manager, knowingly provided false game-worn memorabilia to collectors.
Boy, I hope he didn't do it.
Well, apparently there is an email. He had to turn over in the discovery. He had to turn over all these documents, and there is a smoking gun kind of email where he's asking his equipment manager to provide him with equipment that could pass as game worn.
So he actually put this on an email?
Yeah, to his. And apparently he was also being...
Does Eli not realize that that's not a good idea?
Right. And he had a marketing agent, apparently, who was constantly pestering him to get game-worn equipment to, for Steiner Sports. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Sure,
They do, with all these collectibles.
Absolutely, yeah.
So he's in big trouble, although... The statute of limitations has passed for a criminal case against him of fraud.
How long has he been doing it?
Apparently, it goes back 7 years.
Wow. I was going to say, I thought that was a 7-year statute of limitations.
Well, it's actually 5 years.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
In this particular situation. So he just got past that for criminal fraud.
See, but doesn't that
civil?
Are you suspicious, like I am, that it always seems to the deadline just passed before this all becomes public?
Well, apparently these guys have been pursuing this, but have maybe he has lawyers that knew how to slow this process down.
You may be right.
That it wouldn't be a criminal case, but
Maybe right.
But he is tarnished his good boy.
Boy, I'll say.
And for what? What kind of money are you making off of this?
He can't. I guess making
pocket change.
What was he making a quarterback of the Giants?
He's probably
$15 million
at least.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, memorabilia is nice, but Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that?
No.
I mean, here's a guy. It's gonna, he was probably going to get some. I hate to say it, votes for the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And now he's going to make himself
right
like a bald-headed orphan. I hope he didn't do it, but we'll let the facts be what they are.
Yeah.
And that's really, just another quote unquote good old boy being dragged through the mud.
He was Mr. Squeaky Clean.
Yes, he was.
This goes to me like there's some mental quirk, because I mean, I wouldn't even care. If I was a player, what do you even care? I mean, if it just
doesn't.
It's strange.
Maybe he thought he seems like such a. Maybe he's not a rube, but he seems like he probably thought he was doing the right thing to help somebody out.
Yeah.
And it's blown up in his face.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe I hope he says that, and I hope everybody thinks it. But yeah, there's not going to be anything else, I don't think.
I've just never been a memorabilia guy. I just have no interest in any of that whatsoever. I mean, if I wanted a jersey or something, I bought some hockey jerseys when I played hockey. Like a Ranger jersey or something to wear while I was playing hockey.
Sure.
But the idea that Phil Esposito wore this jersey could not interest me in the least.
No, and plus I'm not going to take the effort to validate it.
Right.
I just, if somebody says, this was signed by Phil Esposito, I said probably signed by some ball boy.
Right.
I don't.
If I
see Phil sign it, I'll say I saw him sign it, but I'm not.
If I was walking down the alleyway in the stadium and Mean Joe Green threw me his jersey, that would be special to me. But
well, it's because he threw it to you.
Right. But
even if he didn't sign it.
Right.
If maybe,
I'm referencing that old Coca-Cola
Well, I love
commercial.
that's and I understand that. That's a big deal.
Yeah, but,
because there's something to that.
Yeah, but to go out there and buy something because it was worn in a game, to me is just so ridiculous.
No, that doesn't do it.
And if somebody brought me into their man cave and showed me that, I'd just go, I don't know if we could be friends anymore. You think that's special?
Well, like I said, I'm sorry that was.
And all this artificial turf, there's not even any grass stains on it. It's.
Well, I'm sorry that we have to potentially expose Eli, but
right.
It's unfortunately, as we always say, you brought it on yourself there, pal.
Yeah.
So let's go to the playoffs, and again, as I said to you, this is a little disconcerting to me that we're starting off in the round of 16s with best of 7.
Right.
Man, this is going to be like playing a second hockey season.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel, that's a lot of hockey games.
Yeah.
But okay, start off right off the bat with our defending champions, the Penguins. They're 2-0 up on Columbus.
Right.
Now they'll go to Columbus for the next 2, and. If you're strictly a home ice guy, they're in the driver's seat. But if you're not, and I'm not, anything can happen.
Yep.
Especially if Fleury gets hurt, because they're going to be without a goaltender presence if Fleury goes down. But I think Columbus has the talent to extend this game to 7 games. So we'll see what happens. And without Letang, Pittsburgh's just not as good as they have been. We'll see if they survive this one. I don't see them surviving Washington if they make it to Washington for the semifinals. But we'll see where it takes them. But right now you've got...
Washington usually chokes, so...
Well, that's, again, not the choking thing, but right now they're playing the Rangers. And the Rangers... I mean, not the Rangers. They're playing Toronto. And Toronto's got everybody rooting for them, and they still... squashed them in the first round.
Right.
In an overtime game. Toronto outplayed them. Columbus, by the way, outplayed Pittsburgh in the 2 games. They just couldn't get a goal.
Right.
So anything can happen, to be sure. But so you got Washington, I think, is going to... The surprise to me is Nashville beating Chicago. To me, Chicago was the odds-on favorite coming out of the West.
Well, they have a slogan... The Blackhawks have a slogan for this year's playoffs.
Go ahead.
And it's 1 goal. and it's really backfiring on them because
they haven't scored a goal
they
yet.
haven't scored a goal yet. And I guess it was referencing their one goal is to get this to the Stanley Cup.
Well,
but
okay, yeah, that's not good. It backfired on them.
Right.
And so, but like I said, that surprised me. But I think they're good enough that they can probably, they'll find a way to come back from this.
Right.
Not so lucky is Minnesota, who lost two home games to St. Louis.
Yeah.
St. Louis looks like they're really getting their act together. Still don't think they're good enough to beat either San Jose or Chicago.
Right.
But they got some offensive firepower, to be sure. So you've got Minnesota looking bad. Montreal and the Rangers.
Yeah,
Montreal barely got it's now the series is 1-1, but Montreal's lucky they didn't come out of their home games with 0-2 because I think they got outplayed.
Well, I watched that game last night.
You said at the end,
towards the end of the third period, the Rangers
were just trying
out of gas.
They were just trying to get the game over with.
They looked like they ran out of
they're
gas.
tired.
Yep.
Okay, well,
they were doing. It seemed like they were trying to do like 20-second shift changes.
Well, that's another example. Ship the thing down. They try to just keep running fresh legs out.
Right.
We're not going to try and score anymore. We're just going to keep sending the puck down the ice, and it works until the other guys pull their goaltender, which is what happened. And now they got a man advantage, and boom, they score.
Rangers were outshot 58-38.
That's a lot of shots.
Henrik
was Henrik in goal?
Yeah, and he actually even though he did wind up giving up 4 goals, I mean, he made some spectacular saves that kept him in that game. Not only in overtime, the overtime went to, I think there was like 2 or 3.
Yeah, it went to 18:34, and you're right.
And I actually was surprised that it went that far. I kind of thought like when the Rangers came out in overtime, I was like, this isn't going to last. I didn't think the Rangers were going to win this game, because they looked like they were dragging.
You could see they're on the.
But I do want to say a funny thing that the Canadian fans seem to be all clones of Sidney Crosby because any
Sidney's going to get shot here. I can see another shot coming at Sidney.
Anytime a Ranger touched a Canadian, boy, they just whined, and it was really comical. It got to there was a good hit, clean hit, and they're just like whining that there should have been a penalty. It was just funny.
Well, like I said, that's maybe that's in fact what they were doing. But like I said, Montreal. I like the Rangers. I liked the Rangers before that series started, and I still like the Rangers. So. All the teams that I'm expecting to win are winning with the exception of Chicago.
Right.
So Nashville has a chance. Anaheim and Calgary, that's going to probably be – nobody's going to see any of the games because they're going to be on so late.
Right.
That's going to be the hardest fought, hottest contested series of the 7.
Yeah.
I think there are about 2 spitting images of the I think, like I said, I think the Rangers are clear-cut. A better.
Yeah,
I know you don't buy it.
I think they're very similar to Montreal.
I think they skate a little faster. Yeah. But the fact is, San Jose is beating Edmonton. Edmonton was
it's 1-1 now.
Oh, okay. So
Edmonton won
last night. Okay, but still, that was in Edmonton. San Jose.
Right.
So San Jose goes to that. Rink up in San Jose where I don't even know what it's called, but they got the home ice advantage if there is such a thing now. But
it's the In-N-Out Burger Arena. No, I'm just kidding.
Something like that. But keep your eye on Boston. Ottawa who won that game last night?
Which one?
Boston, Ottawa.
Boston.
So Boston's up 2-0.
No, I think it wasn't that the first game. 1-0.
Oh, I wondered. I thought they played a second game already.
I think they play tonight.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Let me see. Yes, you are definitely. It's this afternoon. But the only thing that's a surprise so far, in my eyes, is Nashville beating Chicago, and that could flip. Chicago is good enough to wrap up 4 games in a row.
Right.
But that being said, this is worth watching hockey. I like playoff hockey.
Me too.
And this is where you can tell the difference and if guys care or not.
Yes.
People say, "Oh, they're playing those games in the regular season hard." Yeah, they are.
Right.
This is how you're supposed to play. Now they're playing. They don't take chances. They don't do stupid things. They're playing within systems, and the coach will not tolerate any deviations from systems. So we'll see where it gets them. But it's always fun. And right now, I like Washington playing Chicago, and that may or may not change.
But those you're mixing up the East and the West, though, because you're saying Washington and Chicago in the Stanley Cup?
No. I mean, I think Washington and Chicago are the two best teams coming out of the East.
No, Chicago's in the West.
What am I saying? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. I'm standing here reading. Sorry, I got to pay attention. The Capitals, I think, are going to win, and I think they're going to beat the Blackhawks. That's who they play.
That would be the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm sorry. If I didn't say that, I meant to say that. But in fact, I wasn't paying attention. I was reading while you said that. I apologize for
problem.
that. But, Capitals and the Capitals and Blackhawks look like the two best teams.
Right.
So I think they're going to win and face each other, and I think that will be one heck of a good.
Well, you haven't said a word about Boston and Ottawa.
Well, I did. I remember I said Boston, Ottawa. That's still 1-0. You said Boston, I think, has caught fire at the right time.
Right.
They're playing good hockey. I don't know if they're laden with talent, but they will. I think they're going to get past Ottawa. I don't know if they're going to if they got enough firepower to get past the next.
They would play the winner of Rangers Montreal. I don't see Boston beating either one of them. I think the Rangers have manhandled Boston this year.
I don't see Boston even coming close to beating. And I'm not sure they can beat Montreal either.
Yeah.
But I think the Rangers. I know we disagree, but you got Washington and Pittsburgh, but I think the Rangers are every bit as good as both of those teams.
Yeah.
They just aren't as consistent, and maybe that sounds like I'm arguing against myself. But when they come to play, and they're cooking on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Cylinders are as good as anybody.
I'll tell you who was all over that ice last night was Zuccarello.
Zuccarello's very good. Very good.
Yeah.
He's your old-time hockey player,
Yeah.
and he's very, very talented. And I like the guy that he scored. Who was the other guy that scored? The guy that had like 30 goals. That's
Rick Nash?
No. There was I can't think. Like I said, I don't mean to waste time trying to remember goal scorers as I flip into the paper here, but no, the guy that scored the first goal for them. Who was the guy that scored the first goal? He's the guy that had like 30. He's a very fast skater, and it's like I said, I'm trying to figure out. Michael Grabner.
Oh,
That's the guy I'm talking about.
Right.
That guy's really had a good year for him, and he's really producing.
Yeah,
and he can skate. He can skate like the wind.
I think he scored that goal on a breakaway.
Yeah, all the time. I mean,
He had a breakaway.
Can't catch him.
He had a breakaway in the third period as well, and missed the shot.
Well, he is lightning. That guy can fly.
Yeah.
So for that, like I said, that's to me this is a lot of fun. This is what even people that don't like hockey watch the playoffs. Right. It's fun, and you'll even, dare I say it, see a fight every once in a while because guys do get testy.
It was very chippy last night in that Ranger-Montreal game.
Guys are taking each other's heads off. Eventually, somebody's going to swing at somebody.
Yeah.
Because guys come in and just pile drive guys into the board. I mean, if you're not paying attention, you'll lose your head. I mean, you'll get killed. So that doesn't surprise me when things get a little chippy while they're mucking and grinding in the corners. So one more little session to go here, Coach.
Flies by again.
Yes, sirree.
All right, you're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. We are sponsored by Bill Bryant Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, and of course they are located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. You can find them when you see all those Dodge, Chryslers, and Rams out there in front of their really nice showroom. If you've never been there, it's really nice. What can I say? And their phone number is 352-787-2223. We will be right back after these messages. We are back with Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410 with our final segment.
And one of the things I wanted to talk about, we haven't talked about yet, is men's golf, the PGA. And really enjoying two things. I want to talk about the two tournaments that are going on right now. One is the Heritage at Hilton Head. And the interesting thing to this is halfway through, Luke Donald is leading the tournament. Now, Luke Donald was 28 years old, and he rose to number one in the world. I'm going to say this is 7-8 years ago. And it just crashed and burned on him. I don't know what the situation is. I'm not good enough golfer to understand the nuances, but it left him.
Right.
And hopefully it won't leave him again. But here's a guy, he's probably 35 now or 36. And the hard work that you must put in, and I know because I know he's played in tournaments, he hasn't made cuts, and now, good grief, he's back where he used to be 8 to 10 years ago, seeing him in the leaderboard after 2 rounds of the tournament.
Right.
And so I'm going to keep my eye on him and pray for him that he does well, as I will for Ian Poulter, who is also 2 strokes back in second place because he has had some physical ailments. He was a big-name top player, and he, after 2 or 3 years of not playing or playing in pain, you pick up bad habits, you lose your sharpness. And it's just great to see guys like that. And even Jason Duffner. These are guys that were dominant 3 to 5 years ago, and then they kind of fell off the face of the earth. So you have to stay with them and see how they're doing. But I think that's fantastic. So you've got them competing. And one of the things I want to talk about in this tournament is Ben Crane. And I always look to see if he makes the cut and see who's going to play with Ben Crane. Because Ben Crane and I have watched a couple pro tournaments that Ben Crane has played in. Ben Crane is the slowest major league golfer, professional golfer I've ever seen in my life. And I'm surprised that they haven't tried to oust him or penalize him. But Ben Crane, if there wasn't somebody to move him along, it would take him 7 hours to play 9 holes of golf. He wants to walk off putts. He wants to do this. He wants to do that. He wants to do that. And so I'm sure that I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I would bet the ranch that all the guys that make the cut, first of all, they want to see if they make the cut, and secondly, if they're playing, if they got to play with Crane, because Crane is slow.
Right.
And who wants to play with a slow guy? And by the same token, I look over at the senior tour, and always enjoy the senior tour because there's a lot of guys that struggled as they got into their mid-40s and that used to count on the pro tour for their making their living. And there's some big names here. The guys that used to be dominant, and there's some major winners. Guys like Bob Tway, Larry Mize, Jeff Maggart, Scott Verplank. Guys that they're up there in the first round. Bob Tway is leading. Bob Tway used to be a Ryder Cup golfer, and then he fell off the face of the earth when he was like 42. You didn't see him anymore. So I'm glad to see him up there. Bernard Langer, who's 58, still 5 under par. He's right up there. But it's good to see him going down the names. Jose Maria Olazabal is 3 under, and he's in the tournament.
Right. And
I think it would be great for the sport if he could somehow pull a rabbit out of his hat and throw another good score in there. But and while I'm looking down at the very end of the leaderboard, I see my old buddy, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, John Daly. John Daly will play in these senior tournaments and do just well enough to make just enough money to go buy himself something to drink or eat. And I that sounds like a real cruel thing to say, but he's got his own reality show now, and to me, everything, and he is so gifted. He had incredible gifts as a golfer, but he didn't respect them. He just kind of, got rid of them. And hey, like I say, he might be a nice guy. I don't know him, but he wears his demons like a badge or like a cross. Yeah, I have a problem drinking, but and I think stop doing it. Just stop. Just stop. And if you can't, then go get help. But don't make it a sideshow with the reality TV show. And John Daly does this. But the reason, and Tom Watson is actually playing pretty well in that tournament. But going back to my original thing about Ben Crane, a guy who is now on the 50s circuit, who before Ben Crane was the slowest man to play on the PGA Tour,
right?
And he's now on the 50 Tour, is Glenn Day. Nobody wants to play with Glenn. Glenn Day was like Ben Crane. You would almost get mad at them because they play like they want you to get disgusted with how slow it takes them to play. Right. I'm going to get down on my knees and put my hands over my eyes. Then I'm going to go walk on the other side of the green. I'm going to look at it. Then I'm going to come back. Then I'll take a couple putts. And I don't think I read that right. And they do the same. And naturally, somebody comes by and says, "It's okay, we're going to penalize." And I always wondered how that works. Because if you're playing with them, all you need is some PGA official to say, "And you're getting penalized too." And you say, "What did I do?"
Right.
I can't make the guy go any faster, But they have, because they have made stupid rulings in the past.
Yeah.
I'm sure they blamed the foursome. But I have nothing against Glenn Day. Seems like a decent interview, just like Ben Crane. But geez, don't let them golf on TV. They're the slowest I've ever seen anybody. And and they've won their share of tournaments, and they've competed well. But I can't take it. I don't have the time. I truthfully don't have the time to watch them golf.
Right.
So, and that's why if you haven't seen them much on TV, they've done okay, but they won't show them. I'm sure they've been told, don't, unless they're leading or close. No Ben Crane stuff.
Right.
That's all we need. we don't need anybody walking around, walking off 10-foot putts and, bending down and reading it and then going and reading it and then coming back and getting ready to putt and then not being too sure and doing it. I can't. I just, and they're good golfers. So, so it doesn't hurt them. But I'm sure it drives people crazy that plays with them, that wants to move. But he's in there. What did we say? Glenn Day is 2 under par. So maybe he'll play with Olazabal or Billy Mayfair. I think he's an albino golfer, so you gotta like him. He can't have fun playing out in the sun. But Mayfair's a good golfer. Another guy who did well when he was younger. That's why I really like the senior tour. It gives guys who really have suffered. They probably got too old to compete on the regular tour, and the young kids knocked them off. But now here's their chance to make even more money than they could have made on the regular tour. And it's good to see. And I don't even know if they do cuts anymore on the senior tour. They might, where if you're not in the, I think they want everybody that participates and shows up in the senior event to go home with some kind of trophy or something. So they, give you $600, $800, and they divvy up. Everybody that plays in the tournament makes something. Probably doesn't cover expenses, but there's John Daly at 1 over, and we'll see where that gets me. Even Sandy Lyle is even par in the tournament, so that's very interesting. But I just thought it was fantastic to see the 2 tournaments and all the names from the past. But more importantly, I like to point out that Glenn Day and Ben Crane are bad for sport because they're so slow. And I'm always afraid that somebody sees them and they're going to win and everybody's going to do what they do. So, in fact, I played golf yesterday and there was and not that it was a lady, but I'll share that it's a lady just to differentiate. But she went through a routine, whether it was a 2-foot putt or a 30-foot putt, and it was painstakingly slow. It was so bad that even I quietly said, as my right to be a village resident and gripe, this is taking way too long.
Right.
He said, yeah, she shouldn't be out here, but this is the golf course. This is a tough golf course, so nobody plays this.
Right.
I said, great. Bring her out and let her play on a tough course. But so that's my, like I said, this keep your eye on Francesca Schiavone in the tennis tournament and Luke Donald. I've got people I'm really pulling for and rooting for. And I'll root for Bob Tway too, because it's been a long time since he's been in a winner's circle. So, that being said, you got any more rants? Because I got a few.
Well, I don't have a rant, but
what do you got?
I don't know if this is really a sport. I should say
that.
it's not a sport, but I love chess, and they just finished up the U.S. Chess Championship, and Wesley So defeated can't remember his name, Alexander Honest-Chuck. Not an American in the bunch there.
A Russian.
Yeah. It's, I watched a lot of it. It was pretty good.
So it's televised chess. That's what you're telling me.
It's streamed on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
And but they do actually a very good job. But and then they had the women's championship as well. I don't remember the names, but I did want to bring up one point about it. The men's champion. What do you think the purse was for the men's championship?
For chess?
Yeah.
Is this national or international?
This is the U.S. Chess Championship.
U.S. Chess Championship. Yeah. The purse, meaning the purse for everybody?
No, for the winner.
First prize, $200,000.
Nope.
$1 million.
$50,000. The women's champion won $25,000.
Well, you're not going to draw fans.
And one of the reasons I bring that up, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago, they had the bass fishing tournament in Lake County.
Now that's where you pay. That's money.
The grand prize there, and now this isn't this is just part of one of many events they hold.
Sure.
So this isn't like the event. The winner won $100,000.
Catching the biggest fish gets you 100.
Yep.
But winning the American the title, you get 50. Well, I guess I can understand that.
Yeah, but it was I actually went to the fishing thing, and it was a lot of fun. It was very interesting, actually.
Well, getting back to one of your points, I think we may have talked about this before, but I actually had to look this up, and the difference between a sport and a game.
Right.
Did we ever talk about that? I think we did. Yeah.
Briefly, yeah.
Yeah, the sport. A sport is something you train for and practice for.
Right.
And a game is something you play within that sport.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So you play a baseball game within the sport of baseball. There are games, different games that are played.
Right.
But you're playing a game of baseball, but the actual all of the games of baseball come under the sport umbrella.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of people that confused the heck out of me at first too, because I thought, so you're saying, because wait a minute, you don't train for this, you don't train for that. They said no, you don't have to physically prepare yourself. And I guess you could make the argument, well, yeah, I've got to sit here and stare at checkers or something. But the fact of the matter is, I would say that chess is a sport, and you play a game of chess within the Yeah. But sometimes, like polo, polo's a sport, but a chucker is a game within a polo chucker. I mean, I'm talking without knowing.
Many, many years ago, I played competitive chess, and it's grueling.
Did you train for it? Did you have to run? Did you go out and run around the block?
No. Well, I was a kid.
Did you physically train for it?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
But you play a lot of games. I'm
sure it's
practice.
It's mentally. Yeah. It's got to be absolutely grueling, because you have to concentrate on every piece that's left on that board and what you can do with it and what you can't do with it. And once you make the move, you better know what you're doing, because it's made.
And one of the interesting things, like going back to like Bobby Fischer, he talked about physically training, because he said physically when you go, well, you're sitting in a chair, but that's pretty grueling when you're doing 2 or 3 hours.
Well, I think it's mental. It's not physical. It's mental.
Right. Well, but he was saying like it is physical in the sense of
it's sitting in a chair for 3 hours.
Right. And because you could make the same case is NASCAR, a sport because you're just sitting there driving in a circle or an oval, whatever you want to say.
Well, you could say it's car racing a sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah. And to me.
But I mean, I understand that a lot of people aren't going to watch chess and stuff, but it's pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting game.
But there's the difference between a game and a sport is significant,
right?
In the sense that a game, or even it's under the umbrella.
Yeah.
A baseball game is under a baseball umbrella.
Right.
But the game itself is not the sport. The game is the game.
I got you.
Yeah. So there. Whew, am I glad I cleared that up. I can hear radio shutting off all across Leesburg.
Talking about chess. we'll do that in the 5th hour after.
Yeah, that's right. We'll do
after soccer.
We'll do that. We'll see. We'll run down the top 50 international chess rankings here. That's right. So
what's funny is. You would go, well, like if you're a chess player for a long time and blah, 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 grandmaster, if you look at the ages of these people, they're in their 20s.
Fischer was 20.
Yeah.
Spassky was not old.
And then when you start getting into your late 30s, they don't compete anymore.
No, they can't because mentally they don't have it.
Right.
That's
or
right.
whatever, it's just,
all you have to do is, if you're a player, is to make a mental mistake that you normally would never make.
Right.
And I have a feeling you realize it's over for me. I never used to do that, and I don't think it was a one-time thing. Once you do it twice, I think you have to realize I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Now, I don't know what we did, how we're going to do with our audience on closing with chess, but I apologize to.
I like it. I like it. Like I said, here's our new sign off. Pawn rook to pawn 3. I don't even know what that means, but
I don't think that's a legal move. But
well, then I would definitely do it.
All right.
Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ, sponsored by Bill Bryant Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. And stay tuned for Ralph with River Jordan and Friends. He's coming up here in a couple of minutes. And we look forward to seeing you next week here at 1410 WQBQ in Leesburg, the voice